So welcome back, everybody. As already mentioned, next exciting tandem talks with the data stewards of Graz University of Technology and their partners await you. This will give you a good practical insight into the work of data stewards. After the tandem talk, of course, there will be again the opportunity to ask your questions. Our first contribution comes from data steward Sarah Stryeck and her research partner. We are already excited, and with these words, I hand over to you, Sarah.
Thanks a lot, Sabrina. So actually I'm happy to share our data stewardship experiences that we have in the Faculty for Electrical Engineering. So actually, Elira and we had a meeting with our Vice Rector for Digitization and Change Management, which was focusing on the TU Graz Reallabor. So this is an initiative analyzing experiences on the digitization at TU Graz, also now with respect to the current COVID pandemic. And Elira and we were there to present our research data management activities and also the digitization of research. So during the meeting, Professor Mütze was there and she approached us if we can help her to improve research data management in her research group after seeing our presentation. So in the following, we had a phone call on the topic and decided that we will start a pilot in her institute of electric drives and machines. So, yeah. So, actually today we will present you the results of this collaboration, and I'm very happy to introduce to you Benedikt. So he is one of the scientists in Professor Mütze's lab, and I'm myself, I'm a data steward at Graz University of Technology, supporting all those RDM activities. And so at this point, I would already like to hand over to Benedikt, who will introduce his research field and the project that he's focusing on.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Thank you for the introduction. First, I'm a PhD student and a university assistant at the Electric Drives and Machines Institute at EAM at TU Graz. And first I want to give you a quick overview over my research topics. So I'm into integrated modular motor drives, where the aim is to integrate the power electronics which are responsible for making an electric motor speed or torque adjustable. I'm into integrating this power electronics into the drive itself. And I'm also involved in the GridConf project at TU Graz, which is a collaboration project of different institutes of the electric engineering faculty here at TU Graz. And the aim of this project was to develop a high voltage DC-DC converter for the interconnection of DC transmission lines, or maybe in the future DC transmission grids. And I was not the only one who was in contact with Sarah. There was also Stefan Leitner, a colleague of me. So Sarah, maybe you go on to the next slide. And he is a researcher at the CD laboratory for brushless drives for pump and fan applications. It was established in April 2016 and is a CD lab cooperation with a local automotive supplier, MSG. And they are doing research on very small drives for automotive applications. On the two bottom pictures you can see examples, so very small motors, fractional horsepower motors. And in our research, a lot of data is generated. In my case, especially measurement data. In Stefan's case, it's mostly simulation data, and we also have to deal with old data from our colleagues from our predecessors, and we thought about how to manage this data properly. And then our boss, Annette Mütze, contacted the RDM team of TU Graz what Sarah told you already. And they came up with a plan and a lot of ideas and tools how to manage our data, yeah, more proper. So I think, Sarah, you can go on and present those tools that you gave to us.
Thank you, Benedikt. Yeah, so as Benedikt already mentioned, so they are doing a lot of data-driven research, so they generate a lot of data. The team is also working in collaborative projects, so data sharing is also an important topic there. And so this means that also adequate research data management is very important to efficiently perform the research. So to exactly find out what is needed in their team, we had a first meeting where they showed us actually their current data management strategies as well as their data and the workflows that they currently have implemented. And in the next step, we then introduced all the tools and services that we offer here at Graz University of Technology. So we showed them all the tools that we have around the research data lifecycle. So from the planning phase where TU Graz is involved in developing machine actionable data management tools, to the active research phase where we have tools for research data management and data analytics, such as Austria, and also electronic lab notebooks. And finally, also for the last stage of research data management, the project end phase, we are also involved in the development of an archive solution, so in Venue RDM, a repository that has been developed together with CERN. So after showing all those tools to them and discussing together with the team which parts of research data management they would like to improve or where they would like to work on, we together with the team defined a roadmap for the research data management. So what we did is we just discussed all the different steps that they are doing and also where the bottlenecks lie. And based on this, we defined this roadmap. So the project started beginning of this year, and we started off with a roadmap for the next 6 months. And so we had meetings that happened every 1 or 2 months. And during those meetings, we had active sessions where we were really working on the research data management and on the data. For instance, with Cybers, we implemented a data analytics pipeline during our meeting. But also in between those meetings, we had some offline activities and also some conversation on how to proceed. And we covered a lot of topics, so topics regarding our tools like Cybers in Venue. And we also did some discussions, or we had some discussions on metadata and other topics. And I would now hand over again to Benedikt, who will present now the outcomes of this work together.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. Now just a quick overview on things we tested during the last months since the project or our combined project started in January. Yeah, we started to test the Cybers environment together with this integrated Jupyter Lab notebooks app, which was coming from a MATLAB as our main calculation and scripting language. Our first dip into Python-based scripting, and I see this as a nice opportunity to start implementing open source software in contrast to closed source software like MATLAB for our calculations. And it's also nice for documenting calculation processes. And not only having the comments on the calculations directly as comments in the program scripts. Okay, and on the next slide, I want to present you a thing that I immediately implemented in my lab workflow after a hint from Hermann Schranzhofer, who I think will hold the next presentation in this webinar. After one session with the RDM team about metadata, I had a closer look at the data format of my stored oscilloscope shots. For those of you who don't know what an oscilloscope is, those are very high-speed voltage measurement devices, and they output a lot of data. And previously, I put all the metadata about my experiments directly into the file name of the generated oscilloscope files. And on the top of the slide, you can see an example how this looked like. So it's a very long file name. I even had to shorten it to fit it onto the slide. And this file name, yeah, had all the metadata about the experiments stored in it. And Hermann told me, yeah, just to have a closer look about the data and look into it, how it is stored. And actually, the metadata was already stored in there. So I adjusted my workflow in the lab, wrote a small MATLAB script that extracted this metadata from the actual measurement data. Now the whole data generation, measuring, and storage process is much more convenient and yeah, much easier readable. And the third thing, maybe you go on, Sarah. Yeah, which I have planned to do in the next few weeks is that I upload the whole data that was generated in the GridConf project, which I presented to you at the beginning of the presentation. I intend to upload this whole data until our major milestone, which was reached at the end of last year. I will upload this to the InVenue RDM repository of TU Graz to make this data not only to store this data, but also make it more accessible to our project partners and other researchers that are interested in the topic. And other takeaways of our common sessions with the RDM teams was that I started revisiting my current folder structure of my research data, which was already generated, did something on the management of my data analytics scripts in MATLAB. Yeah, and my colleague Stefan told me that he has already started switching his documentation of his simulations to the simulations or simulation diary or lab diary that is provided by the RDM team of TU Graz. Yeah, so those are the current outcomes of our combined efforts, and I think there is already much more, or it will be much more to discover in the future.
Okay, thank you very much for your insights into your collaboration, Sarah and Benedikt. It was very informative. So I think we can go along with answering questions in the chat if any questions arise, if that is okay for you, so that you both can answer them in the chat. Is that okay?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
Mhm.
Thank you very much for this insight. It was really good. So our next data steward who will tell us more about his work tasks is Hermann Schranzhofer, together with his partner. We really look forward to your report of cooperation. And with that, I will turn the floor over to you, Hermann.
Thank you very much. I hope everyone can hear me. It's okay, the sound is okay? And you can see my slides?
Yes.
Yes.
Very good. So thank you very much. Hi to all. We want to tell you in this short Tandem talk something about data in the Horizon 2020 project running on Graz University of Technology. And first of all, my name again is Hermann Schranzhofer. I'm a data steward on the Faculty of Mechanical Engineering and Economic Sciences at Graz University of Technology. And with me is a colleague from this faculty working within a Horizon 2020 project on his PhD. His name is Christoph Moser, and he's from the Institute of Thermal Engineering. In the faculty, we have some different jobs running. First of all, we implemented together with the members of the faculty a specific RDM policy. This was approved by the Dean at the last faculty curia meeting and is, as far as we know, the first faculty-specific RDM policy in Austria. There is a data champions program running at the total university, and some of these data champions are also working on this faculty. Christoph Moser is, for example, one of them. We also give support on developing data management plans and also metadata, as we will see later on in an example. And finally, we give also instruction for using institutional repository and at the university, and also other tools concerning RDM, as Sarah, for example, already mentioned. But now I want to ask Christoph to introduce his research topic, that we can show how we are working together on RDM specific issues here. So please, Christoph. Christoph.
Hi, my name is Christoph Moser, and I'm working in the EU project Hybrid BIOVGE, which is funded in the Horizon 2020 funding scheme. Besides Graz University of Technology, the project has several partners. First is the coordinator from the Institute of Science and Innovation in Mechanical and Industrial Engineering from Porto. The second partner is the Eastern Switzerland University of Applied Sciences, the University of Bologna from Italy, and two industrial partners from Austria, Agasner and Solar Focus. Please, next slide. The aim of this project is to develop, design and demonstrate a highly integrated solar biomass hybrid air conditioning system for space cooling and heating for residential as well as commercial buildings. The main components of this system are the solar collector field, which acts as the primary heat source of the system, the biomass boiler, which is the auxiliary heat source during cloudy weather conditions and during night, the thermally driven variable geometry ejector chiller, and the thermal energy storage using PCM, which is the main task of my work at the Institute. Another component is the heat distribution system to supply the building and the hot water loop. Please, next slide. During this project, we have identified three main data sources. First are the data from the simulation, which consists of the simulation model, the input data of the simulation, like the building file, the weather, and the load file, and last, the output files, the results from the simulation. Please, next slide. The second data source are the measured data in the laboratory. This dataset consists of raw measurement data, process data, output data, and also general data, which is generated during the design phase of the test rig, like the computer-aided design files, as well as notes from the observations during the measurements. Please, next slide. And last are the data from the full-scale system. The generated data of the full-scale system consists of data needed to control the individual components of the whole system, as well as of the monitoring data of the building itself. So these datasets also contains sensitive data regarding to the presence of the people. So I now want to hand over to Hermann again.
Thank you, Christoph, very much. Thank you. So actually, a data management plan was necessary within the first 6 months of the project. this plan was also developed with the help of the RDM team of Graz University of Technology. It contains description about which data will be produced, a definition of the metadata, and also a suggestion for a repository. Also, ethical aspects were addressed. The entire DMP is openly available to all on the project homepage. Now Christoph started to prepare metadata for some of his measurement data, and there are, of course, always questions which the RDM team can answer. The main categories here are administrative data, structuring data, metadata, and also descriptive metadata. So again, Christoph, can you say a few words about your first metadata, please?
We have started the preparation of the metadata with an example measurement data set of our laboratory measurements, according to our data management plan of the project. First, we filled out the mandatory metadata, which consists of the author, the title, publisher, year, resource data, and the funding reference. This helps to identify the dataset. Please, next slide. On this slide, you see the optional metadata, which gives some more insight in our dataset and also increase the findability in, for example, in the later stored repository. Additionally, we want to add an additional README file in the repository, which include all relevant information to allow an efficient reuse of the data. And this dataset, what you're now seeing in these two slides, will be uploaded soon in the repository of Graz University of Technology.
Thank you, Christoph, very much. So this is the next step, or Christoph already mentioned that we will upload the data and the metadata and fill in the metadata, get also the URI for publishing, and afterwards this will be done also with all the other relevant data produced within this project. And that's all from our side. I hope you had a first good impression about our work in this direction. Thank you very much for your attention, and we are waiting for your questions.
Many thanks to both of you, Hermann and Christoph, for this great insight into your fruitful work. We have questions in the chat and also a little time to answer them right now. So I can read them for you. Is there already a link to the faculty-specific RDM policy you mentioned?
Thank you for the question. Not now already. We have I have some echo on my microphone. No, not now. Okay. Thank you very much. Yes, we will have a link to this policy, I hope, in 1 or 2 weeks, because the decision was done 2 weeks ago, and I'm waiting for the minute. And the dean has to confirm this, and then we will have the link to the. Then we will openly give it to our homepage, and you can see the policy of the faculty. I hope we can do this in next 1 or 2 weeks.
Thank you, Hermann. There is also another question for Christoph. Any persistent identifier for the dataset, DOI?
I think I have already answered this question in the chat already, but I can also repeat it. The DOI is not filled in this example dataset because it's generated during the upload. So if it's uploaded, we have the DOI.
Okay, thank you, Christoph. Are there any further questions for Hermann and Christoph?
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mary.
You can always contact me if there are any questions coming around. Just write me an email.
So maybe if some questions arise during the next presentation, you can answer them in the chat. Thank you. Okay. So our third data steward, Alexander Gruber, together with his partner, will provide us with further practical background information. We welcome your Tandem talk, and with that, I pass on to you, Alexander.
So thank you, Sabrina. So in this talk, we will talk a little bit about the implementation of a digital lab book at the FELMI ZFA. So next slide, please. So my name is Alexander Gruber, and I'm a data steward with a focus on the Faculty of Mathematics, Physics and Geodesy at the Graz University of Technology. And my colleague, who I support in the context of the data stewardship program, is Armin Zankel, who is a senior scientist at the FELMI ZFA, also at Graz University of Technology. At this point, I would like to hand over to him. And Armin, could you please give us a short introduction about yourself and about the institute and, yeah, what kind of research you do, actually?
Okay, thank you, Alex. My name is Armin Zankel. I'm part of the Austrian Center for Electron Microscopy, which consists of two entities, of the Institute of Electron Microscopy and Nanoanalysis, which is part of Graz University of Technology, and further on Graz Center of Electron Microscopy, which is part of Austrian Cooperative Research, ACR. They are working in deep cooperative sense. The main topic of FELMI is science and research, and the main topic of ZFE is industrial service. But even at the ZFE, a lot of science near to industry is done. Next slide, please. As you can imagine, we are many persons in our house, a big staff. This is a photograph of the year 2017, and 1 hour ago, I counted the staff actually, and we are 49 persons in our house with a percentage of women, namely 45% women, and additionally 9 master students. So on the whole, 58 persons are working in a complex manner using several methods and several machines. Please, the next slide. Here you see the portfolio of our machines. Many electron microscopes. In the first row, you see scanning electron microscopes. In the second row, transmission electron microscopes. And in the third row, focused ion beams. A lot of scientific work is done, like high-resolution imaging, spectroscopy methods, in situ electron microscopy, qualitative electron microscopy, and several more topics are done. And as you can imagine, a lot of data are produced and have to be stored and have to be managed. And this was a thing to get contact with RDM, especially with Alex, because new aspects are to be performed. Next slide. I think it's the next slide by Alex.
So thank you, Armin. So actually, last summer there was a call in the context of the RDM marketplace where the idea was to come up, so researchers have to come up with ideas how to improve, also to help the TU to improve and to develop towards a more open and accessible science. And the aim was, so to say, to improve the practice in data handling itself, also to increase the outcome of the reproducibility and the reusability of the data and information gathered during the research projects, and also to find a way, or certain ways, to implement, to find a strategy to implement new software tools, which are now helping us to do a proper data management. And during this call, there were several topics covered. Some of them you already heard. The slide back, thank you. These are data stewardship, repository systems, analytic platforms, and other RDM tools, like our digital lab notebook. And actually, there were 7 small RDM projects chosen, and they were funded by the TU. And one of these projects is the project Lab Log, which is Armin project. And Armin, could you give us a quick overview over the project?
Yeah, thank you, Alex. The acronym LabLog stands for Development of a Digital Laboratory Logbook for Specific Data and Metadata. We want to improve our data management with new digital tools. And we are very happy to have this good contact to the RDM group, because we have some ideas concerning our work. Up to now, we have got a strict protocol concerning data storage, because we have got a quality management in our house. But there are, in some situations, there are further data which are not accessible, which are lost over the time. Think about the PhD student who's working, for example, over 3 years, and he has got, or she has got, a hard copy book and some data stored in there. Maybe they are very interesting, very relevant, and we want to get them accessible. And so an idea was to use the ELAB software to implement it for this additional and for metadata. But we've got a strict retention of our quality and confidentiality rules, because we've got, as I told you, quality management system. Please, next slide. Here on the right, you see it. We are dependent on our quality system. We want to be correlative to it, but we want to have further storage and further accessibility of data which are up to now not accessible. The team is mainly consisting of Ruth Schmidt and Jakob Gurka, but all the staff of our house is involved in this project. We started rather lately in the midst of April. At first, we had an institute seminar where we told the colleagues what's the case, and now they are involved to learn about the software, in contact with Alex, to test it concerning special working paths, and then we look how it works and how we maybe can improve the software or can improve our skills, and maybe we get some good results until the end of the project. Next slide, I think, is one from Alex.
Okay, thank you again, Armin. So yeah, as Armin already mentioned, the software behind this digital laboratory book is ELABFTW. And why it was chosen, the reason why it was chosen is because during the call, the software was already available. And it's an open source solution for electron laboratory documentations. And some of these features this software already provides are really important for the ZTFE. So for in one case, the security issue, so strong encryption is really important for the quality management. Also, that is free software. Then plenty of other important aspects are already covered in the software, which has not to be implemented new. And also that the next slide, please. Thank you. So here you have a quick overview of the software, how it looks like. I think there were a couple of slides ago before. And as you can see, you have an experiment section where the actual documentation of the appropriate data from the experiment takes place. You have the possibility to, with the database, you can have a database for all of your instrumentations, for all of your equipments. As Armin before mentioned, they have really a lot of equipment at the facility. So you need a place to store it. You have then a scheduler where you can book these items, and you have also the possibility, like with these drawing options in the right corner, to make small sketches during your documentation, all together in one digital netbook. So, next slide, please. So I think this sounds really good. And Armin, what was the idea to call an data steward? I mean, it sounds pretty good, but the idea was new, the software was new. So I think we had some action points, some tasks we had to tackle. All right?
The idea was to have support, to have good support. I'm happy. In addition, Alex is a colleague of ours because he made his diploma work in our institute. We know each other. And I'm, as an older guy, I'm happy to have a young guy to give me some information concerning new technology. But younger persons also are working within the project. So I'm happy to get good progress and good results.
Okay, thank you. So the real action point we had to tackle at the beginning of the project were I gave the team, so the team about Jakob, Armin, and Ruth, a detailed introduction to the tool. So I showed them how to get access and what we can do in the tool, how we can it customize to our needs. Then I managed to get them a dedicated team level instance in the ELABFTW because we have they need a place where they can we have a secure testing area for that, because as we already mentioned, the quality issues, and we needed a place where the where no person who are not allowed to look at the data, or they call it all the management tools, have the opportunity to see this. So then we also wanted to identify the attachment potential of the tool, because we do not want to replace workflows that already works pretty well at the Institute, because the acceptance by the staff members increases if the temporal extra effort is really small. So we just wanted the attachment and not a replacement. Then we tried to transfer a simple case into the tool. And what Armin and the team did was they did a survey of requirements and ideas and wishes desired by all of the staff members of the ZFA to see what we have to do that the acceptance of the staff member will be really high. So next slide, please. So a short outlook, what has to be done in the future. So in the next week, we get a really new standalone version of ELABFTW, because now it's part of another software and we wanted a really standalone version. Because now we can get access for all of the staff members, which is really important, because FELMI ZFE is some kind of an institute, which is a German word. And it's some kind of, let's say, a combination of an institute, of a university, and an association, so the ZFE, Zentrum for Electron Microscopy. But we managed this. And now we want to realize all of these successions, or maybe some of them, into this software provided by researchers of the institute. And of course, we'll provide them technical support. And what is really important for us as RDM team is to find a strategy how to implement what we do now at this institute, to implement also on other institutes at TU Graz. So, Armin, thank you for your talk with you. And do you want to mention something? Or are you happy with what we said?
I'm happy, very happy with this webinar today. I'm happy with you, Alex, that you support us, and I'm sure that we get some results. As a next thing, at the end of June or at the beginning of July, we have further institute's intern seminar where some freaks of our house will have tested the software concerning their working parts, and then we will speak about further implementation in our house. I'm happy about this, and I think we will have good results.
And I'm looking forward to that. So.
Okay, thank you very much, Alexander and Armin, for your report and the manifold impressions. It was very interesting, I think, for every one of us. Okay, are there any questions from the audience that we shall answer now? I think Ilire already answered one question. Oh, everything's clear. Okay. Good. When I look at the clock, I see that we are now slowly coming to an end. So a big thanks to all the presenters who provided us with these interesting insights. To everyone who joined us today, thank you very much for your participation in today's Data Stewardship webinar. We hope that you enjoyed it and that we were able to give you many valuable and interesting insights. And we would be very pleased to welcome you at further events. If you have any questions or suggestions, please do not hesitate to contact the Fair Data Austria team. I wish you a good day, and I hand over to Ilire, who would like to share a few final words with you.
Thank you, Sabrina. I just want to point you to our next event in this series of research data management in Austria. So our next event is organized by Medical University of Graz, and the title is Research Data Management in Life Sciences. It will take place on the 8th of June from 10 to 12. So here you have also the link to the registration page. The information will be provided also on our Fair Data Austria website. And I think the colleague who is organizing this event, Teresa Maher, will also post the link in the chat. So if you are interested, you can register right now. And I also want to thank all of our speakers. So Maike, Heather, for the great presentations and all the impulses that you gave us today. I want to thank Sarah and Benedikt, Alex and Armin, Hermann and Christoph for this practical view that you brought into the webinar. And of course, we have noticed that there are still challenges ahead of us in establishing data stewardship programs. We noticed that we cannot do that in isolation. So like a single institution or a university is almost impossible maybe to establish such programs, to convince our managements that we need extra resources for data stewards. But if we join forces, so if we work on aligning all these initiatives on a national and international level and making those baby steps that also Maike mentioned in the chat, I think we have opportunity to achieve our goals. One takeaway message that I'm also taking with me today is that we have to try to bring these two perspectives together, so data stewards and researchers. And we can do this by having a data-driven researchers or data-interested researchers and also research-oriented or research-interested data stewards. So if these two groups have like intersections in their interest and in their work, then we can make this happen. So thank you all for joining us today. We will share the videos of the talks and also all the slides, and we will inform you how to get them. So they will be available on the project website and also on the repository, so you can download them. Thanks a lot and have a nice day, and see you in our upcoming events.